I'm back! Here we are. Well, hey Tony, what are you doing with that old amp over there? What old amp? Well, that DV Mark 666. Well, the 666 isn't something that's been around too long. Well, at least not in that format. Oh, what do you mean? Well, if you were lucky enough to buy one of these, it's on version 3, as in NAMM 2014. You see, when they made this amp, they said, this is version 1, doesn't sound right. There's also another one called a Bad Boy that did sound right, they said. But this one didn't sound right, so we made a Mark II. Well, that was a year ago. So now there's a Mark III. Yeah, that whole idea got me thinking a bit. Probably get you thinking too. You know, all those sleeper amps that are out there, you know, the ones that don't really sell. Well, they sell in small numbers because there's this wrong or there's that wrong. Well, different people say that those things are wrong about them. And then they discontinue them and sell them off really cheap. I mean, a real good example is the Fender Machete, which is currently selling for, I don't know, less than $1,000. But it was a couple of thousand, or less than £750 here in England. So it's a veritable bargain because they were fetching nearly £2,000 when they came out, just I think 16 or 18 months ago. So you've got to ask yourself a question here. Well, if it's such a crap amp, why did you make it? So I was thinking about it, like I said, and I thought about it a bit more, because I'm like that. It's a great amp, look at it, it's got all these knobs and things on. But actually, is it a great amp? Is it an amp that's what's called a sleeper amp? You know, it's one of them amps that it's a really great amp, but people didn't quite catch on to it. You know, take that Fender Machete. Is it a great amp? And people just didn't quite, quote, get it. You know, Fender making an amp that's got a lot of drive, for example. And this amp here looks great, but, you know, it looks metal. But could it be used for anything else? And do all them sounds, the 3 channels, all them settings, are they all crap? Well, it does beg a question, especially if you've never had one. So what this video is about, it's about, on this occasion, the DV Mark 666 version 1, which you can't buy unless you get one second hand, and they're kicking around. And it's also about that Fender Machete, which, believe it or not, I bought one. Yeah, I bought it for a review, and just a night ago, one night, it was sitting there. It was a combo. It's bigger than you think. But here's the point, it never quite made the review, that particular one, so I'm sending it back. It's going back, that's that. But I did actually video some of it, and I'm going to put the some of it into this video along with the 666, so we can get a good idea of what these sleeper amps are all about. Because when they come down from £2,000, or whatever this was as well, down to the sort of £750 for either one, this one or the Fender Machete head, you've really got to ask yourself, well, them amps must have been viewed as a really great amp when they first came out. In fact, if you check the internet, they were, both of them. Funny thing is, nobody's ever been back, like I am, and said, hey, you know those sleeper amps? Sleeper cabs. Whoa, them sleeper amps. I wonder if they're really any good. Some time ago, I bought this thing, if you can see that. Yeah, I think they still make it in one shape or another. It's called a Seymour Duncan pickup booster, and you don't see these around really that often. But if you've got a guitar that doesn't have particularly hyper powerful pickups, what you don't really want is to get a distortion into the tube amp, because the tube amp's got the distortion. What you really want is more clean input. Enter the pickup booster. That will be talked about in this as well. One big long fat video. And as well as that, whoa, what we got here, it's a new one because it's never been used hardly. I sort of collected this one. What this is a TS808 HW, it says here. A lot of you might have seen them, but they asked a real premium price for this thing. It was $349 list, and I think £299. You know, special manufacture run and all that rubbish. And if I take the back off, which I'm going to do later, you're going to see inside here where the thing is actually hand wired from individual components. But the real question about this is it worth all that extra money just to have some odd pieces of capacitors and resistors in there, along with the same old chip that is in all the others? It was expensive. We shall see later on. So it's quite a packed video, but it will work for an hour or two. This is how these videos work. But if you want to jump to check the Fender Machete, that's it here at wherever it says. If you want to see the pickup booster, it's here, or wherever it says. If you want to see the tube screamer, or valve screamer doesn't sound right, as one guy said. Well, that's here, somewhere. But we're going to start off with the DV Mark 1 666, and it's going to be an inside and out review. And I may get to the Fender thing and do that after this, here. So the first thing we need to do is to get this thing apart and see what it's really made of. Hold on, let's get the lid off. Well, here we are, got the lid off. As you can see, it's built in a rather different way than most of the other amps that we look at, you know, where we pull the bottom off and take a look inside and all that stuff. Actually, on this one, you take the top off. There's not much to see underneath because the bottom doesn't actually come off. So we're going to look at everything from above, and that's the best place to look. Trust me on this, I'm looking at it now. Looks awesome. We shall see. Let's put it down. I'm going to move the camera over, take a quick look inside before we do outside, and then we'll be playing it later. All sounds good. Hold on. Well, looking at the amp inside, you can see that it's rather well made. Bit like the DV Mark products that I've looked at before, really. Anyway, let's take a run through. Look at this thing here, this toroidal transformer. We're not talking any old thing here, are we? We're talking a big, fat, chunky power transformer. Not as big and fat and chunky, I guess, as maybe some of them could be, especially if it was the metal type, but that's an output transformer. It's another story. So we got that running into this power section down here. Some nice big capacitors, as I like to see, for smoothing. And well, that looks pretty good. The overall quality of the board is quite excellent, really. You can tell it's not Chinese, or bottom end Chinese, that is. There are some good Chinese parts, like, you know, boards and things, but this one, really, you can tell that it's not a Chinese product, no question. Inside here are also 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 preamp tubes, which are all ECC83 and they're all JJ. You've also got 2 KT88 STRs, and those are both ruby tubes, and those are big fat things. So I guess they're all good to go. Or not. I do know they sound good. But maybe that's why they discontinued it. I doubt it. But KT88s. It seems those are the only ones you can fit in, because there's nothing anywhere about changing these. For that matter, there's nothing anywhere about a lot of the things. You can see the sort of regulator type of stuff moving down this way. Well, that looks fine. What I do like about this one, once again, is you've got a PCB for the preamp tubes, even though there's a preamp there, it's probably used for something else. You've got a little secondary board down here that has all the pots on for the controls, which is nice. Actually, some of those bottom controls fit on the bottom board. You've got a third one here at the back. Actually, that runs, let's have a look, all the way along the back with all the outputs on. So once again, it's separate from the main board. Well, this little board here actually has got a processor on it and some memory on it and things like that. They don't talk about what this is for actually in their manuals. In fact, there are no manuals, so you're stuck with what you've got and what we see and what we guess. I guess that looks after the controls of all the amp, for the switching channels and all the rest of it. There's no reverb on it, anything like that. At least I don't think there is, no. So that's what I think that does, amplifier control. And then we come to this big fat output transformer, and trust me, this is as big and fat as in the Road King. Yeah, huge thing. Just while we're on the subject of power in and out, this power supply only supports the voltage that it comes with, and in this case it's 230 volts. Alright, there's a 230 and a 240. It says here primary 0 to 230, secondary 240, but it doesn't talk anywhere else about 110 and things like that. And they do say on the site and in the manual that you can't convert this to 110 from 240 or 230, so you're stuck with that. So if you're in the States, buy a 110 volt one, you'll probably be better. Notice also that here you've got a little fan that's whizzing around on these two tubes to keep them cool, and the front of the amp, you can see there, sorry, not the front, that's to top, isn't it, is all transparent with lots of holes to let the you know, the heat rise, which I bet you there'll be a fair bit of heat off them too. Maybe a fair bit off these preamp tubes, because they do get quite hot. I notice also there's no shielding on them. They're all just straight into the sockets. You'll also note, well, you can't see in there, but I'm going to tell you, but you can see there that they are ceramic tube holders. See them? But they are soldered direct to the board. So although they're ceramic, they go straight to the board. And even on the main power tubes, they are ceramic again, but they go straight to the board. But the overall build, once again on this DV Mark, is, well, frankly, it's exceptional. Some of the other stuff I've seen, of which you'll probably see on this video at some stage, is a bit of an eye-opener. I mean, they even put little bits of paint, you can see that there, on some of the screws just to lock them in place. You can see over there, over here, down here, everything's sort of locked in place, down there, down there. That's but a decent quality. You don't see that too much these days. The passive tone controls as well, and I guess if the passive tone controls, you can probably hop in here and change a few of the resistors or capacitors or both. Fancy that. Could be useful, especially if they say the voicings are not too great on this amp. That's what they said, I didn't. Another feature about this this amp is on the back here, just down here, you can see, or you can hear it, you've got a little button called bias low or bias high, which is a bit weird. It's basically for switching the tubes into high bias or low bias. That's a bit weird. Low bias mode, it says here, the tubes use less power unless tube life is taken out of them. High bias mode gives top quality and power, high fidelity sound, but the power consumption and dissipation in tubes increases in either mode. Unlike the tube amplifier, the Bad Boy 666 is able to greatly prolong the life of its tubes. Who cares? Let's put some new ones in, don't we? Anyway, that's where it talks about bias. And one thing about this tube amp, it's got something that's on the back of it that just looks a bit like a network connector. It's not a network connector, but it does say in the manual that you can get some software, dedicated software. Well, it doesn't say you can, it says DV Mark have dedicated software where you can change things. More interesting, it says here, allows the users or service technicians to connect to this port to a computer and with dedicated software collect technical data and tube parameters. Well, I guess you could. I've never seen the software. It's not downloadable either. But there is one of these, which we're going to look at a bit later. And this plugs into that port around the back. And that shows you 1001 things, such as what the life of the tubes has been, how old the amp is, all sorts of things. Quite interesting little box, but it's an optional extra, it doesn't come with it. And if you haven't got one by now, well, you'd have to go and buy one, and they're not that cheap. And I did talk about that board there earlier. It is actually a microcontroller for controlling the power amp, that is. So you're probably going to see things like bias and the rest in there. Unfortunately, there's no more info, but it is pointing towards that. And off the side of that microcontroller, let's get that right, it does show you the little button for bias. Fancy that? There you go. I'm going to do a quick run through of the front of the amp. I'm not going to spend all day on it. Everybody knows what a bass knob is, don't they? So what have we got? Well, we've got an input, and we've got a dB gain reducer in case you're using those active pickups and things like that. We've got gain, master, presence, high, middle and bass, channel 1. There's a little light that comes on there, so you know where you are. And believe it or not, it's the same on all 3 channels. So I can move along that away if you want, but to be honest, it's pretty boring. I'll just show you the other end. Yeah, it's absolutely boring. Just like I said. You've got a standby and an off, or an on. Got a little power light. You've got a solo button, sorry, a solo light, because it's got a solo on the foot pedal. Channel 3, bass, middle, high, just the same as the other one. Presence, master and gain. And it's the same on the middle channel, so let's have a look around the back. It's more interesting around there than here. Okay, well, first things first. Actually, all European products for sale, all products for sale should tell you where they come from. I've said this many times, starting off with the XFX, but that's another story. You can see very clearly that it's stamped on the machine where it's made. And that wasn't the case on the XFX at the time. Whether he's bothered to change it's another story. If he hasn't, it's illegal. It's in breach of the regulations. You've got CE approvals and you've got ROSH compliance. All of them things should be on here. This was made 03-2011. I bought it way after that. End of line this was. That's why we're talking about this amp today. We've got the service port that I spoke about earlier on, where we plug that little DV Mark DVM controller, and we can find out things about the amp. We've got a low or high bias button. All very exciting. Not. Well, there's the power in up there, if you can just about see that. It's a UK type of ECC type of thing. I don't know. And then we can move along a bit further. Let's just do that. Okay, now we've got really what they are is they're like, you can put little connectors on, short them out, and then you get channel 1 or channel 2 or channel 3, or the loop you can switch, or the solo you can switch, or you can just get their controller that it comes with, by the way, and it just fits in that one. That's by far the best choice. But bear in mind, this amp doesn't have any MIDI, so you could actually use a device that can switch this amp through these 5. Okay, notice the fan. That's for cooling those great big massive tubes, KT88s. You've also got this little switch here and a little channel select something as there. I think I've never used that one. Actually I have. It switches this one in and out. So you can whiz around these. Well, what have we got? We've got channel 1, channel 2, channel 3. Enable the controller. See that? Everything or off. Job done. How boring is that? As well as that, you've got send and return here, and you've got a send level, and a control that switches this loop from parallel to series, or anything in between. You can sort of mix the two, which is quite nice. I haven't seen many of them around. Lastly, we've got the speaker outs. It's self-explanatory, really. And here's one last look from the other side of the amp to the insides. It's all nice. Extremely well made. All DV Mark stuff that I've ever seen is exceptionally well made, actually. Big fat output transformer. Big fat power supply. Toroidal. Big fat tubes. And a big fat fan to keep it all cool. Very nice. Well, there you go. It's all exciting. It's more exciting than the manual. The manual's so thin, as it is on some amps. You've got the intro, that's 2 pages. Picture of the front panel, which you can see anyway. Picture of the back panel. Technical specs. And a warranty. Let's throw that over there. What more can I say about the manual? Well, the best thing to do, really, is what you do is you put the speaker on the back, and you flip these 2 buttons on, and you play it. That's what most people do. I'm not quite most people. What I tend to do is to look just that little bit further. It's what you should do. Look just that little bit further, so you can see yourself. Oh, I'm itching. So you can see yourself inside and what you're paying for. Why you spending? Well, you're not spending £2,000 or £1,500. I think this one was, and for the Machete £2,000. What you're doing is you're paying $750 or less. That's $1,000, guys. So the sleeper amp idea is good. I'm just going to put the lid back on because I feel naked. You want to see it? No, you don't. Well, there it is, back together. My trusty DV Mark 666 Mark 1, the sleeper. Here's a very quick, short run through of some of the things in this. Can't show you too many because I haven't the time to mess around with it, but I'll just show you, just in case you've never seen one, which you haven't. It's DV Mark ATSC version 3. DVM controller, and don't flip across. 666 firmware version 0. There you go. Power tubes, biasing, supply voltages. It's all in standby, so I wouldn't worry too much. Working time 183 minutes at no work. Mode standby low. Output power 120 watts. 666, and that's about it. You can do 1 or 2 other things, but you get the idea, I'm sure. Yes, a very interesting little device, and I'm sure that if you did get that piece of software out of DV Mark, you could do a load more stuff with this, probably like setting the bias and things that, frankly, I can't. Except on the little button, high or low. Where's normal? I don't know. Anyway, it all looks good. Next thing for this one is going to be outside. But before that, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these two little pedals, and then I'm going to show you some of that Fender Machete, because that was a good buy as well. And I do know on Thomann, they sold out, from what I see, in one day of the Machete. Nice. So let's take a look at those two little pedals one at a time. Now then, this is one of them little things that if you didn't know about it, you'd be going buying something like a tube screamer of one kind or another, or some driving pedal to drive you out just that bit more so you can get that glorious tone. The only problem is, what them things do is they introduce a tone. Bit of a problem. But what if you want the guitar tone that you always had and you just want to drive more? It's this thing. Okay, you might have seen them before, you might not. A lot of people haven't. Well, what is it? Well, you plug your guitar in and it's got an output at the other side, so you plug that into the front end of your amp, i.e. there. And you can control the gain from your pickups from 6 dB all the way round to 25 dB, and I'm telling you now, 25 dB is going some. You put it on the front end of a Strat, it's awesome. You've also got this, it says PU Res under here. Well, I don't have the manual anymore, but it makes a tone change basically, slightly. It's probably pickup resonance or something, I don't know, or resistance, or I don't know, it doesn't tell you. But it's very simple to use. You go like that, or you go like that. How boring's that? You need extra gain without the distortion other than from the amp. Dudes, get one of them. Tell them Tony sent you. Now, when I was over there in the States, not a million years ago, I saw one of these in one of the music stores and I was perplexed. I had a choice of buying this, new, or a Keeley modified one. You know, the standard one, the one that everybody's got, most people got. But I opted for this one, and I opted for this one because I've never seen one of these before. They were made in like a limited quantity. It's a Tube Screamer TS 808, hand wired, unlike any 808 I've ever seen before, or you indeed, unless you've seen one. If you've seen one, move forward to that next bit. If you haven't, well, it's definitely worth looking at. Well, in every respect, it's nearly every respect, it's just like a Tube Screamer, except it's got, you can drive it by mains, it's got an in, it's got an out, and there's the battery compartment. It's even got a battery in it. Look at that. Wow, can you see that? Don't worry if you can't. What I'm going to do, I'm going to slightly lift the back off. I'll let you have a closer look inside, because it literally is a handmade device, and that's why it costs a lot of money. They were $349, and I think they were about £250 or something ridiculous in England. I don't know. They come in a big green box and they're all made to look good. And this one I've sort of kept pristine, as you can see. And I've had this one probably a couple of years now. So let's have a look what's inside for all that extra money, as opposed to the $120 one that you can buy anywhere. Hold on, it's all good. Oh my God, you caught me screwing. Turn that camera off. Well, there you have it. Now that's a TS808 built a bit different than most of the ones most people will see. It's, as you can see, it's completely hand wired. Awesome. And there's the little magic chip in there. And this one happens to be, my eyes on what they were, 4558D JRC. So there, it's not in a socket, so I guess you could pull it out and put a socket in there and start swapping them. But these were, on this particular device, these were hand selected actually at the factory, and they were supposedly the best ones that you could get your hands on. They said in the paperwork, you know, and the rest of it. But you can see that you've got real capacitors, real resistors, one at a time. It's all hand soldered. It's all a fantastic job, actually. You've got the old-fashioned switch there, and everything's really hunky-dory. The only thing that really's changed is the little power connector at the top. But there it is. I just wanted to show you that, just in case you happen to drop on one of these pedals cheap, because they do sound, I think, slightly different, but I wouldn't put it down to being massively different, if you know what I mean. It's a bit like a lot of these things. If you've got bat ears, you're going to hear the differences dramatically. If you're like me and everybody else, well, you don't. You'll convince yourself that you hear the difference, and that's the problem, isn't it? Anyway, let's zoom back out. I just wanted to show you inside that fabulous TS808 hand wired. There it is. Anyway, what do I use it for? Well, I've got a JTM 45 that I actually made some years ago, a few years ago. Marshall JTM 45. It's an exact replica, and I use it to drive that. Sounds good on that. I remember going to see some guy. Yes, Michael Schenker. he got an 800 JCM 800. Yeah, I think it was a 51. And he was driving it with a regular tube screamer. Sound was awesome. I was like 3 foot from this guy. He was playing in a flea pit in Hanley and Smoke on Stench, where I live. That's not his real name, but it could be. And he was awesome. Michael Schenker went through his rough times after that and then came back up. Now he's awesome again. I like him. He's one of the old style guys, you know, the ones that can play. No, I'm only joking. Yeah, those sleeper amps. Well, that's what they call them in the States, sleeper amps. I don't know why. It's not asleep. It's turned off. No, but seriously, in England we don't call them sleeper amps. We call them crap. Actually, I'm joking, as always. These amps, not just this one by the way, it's not crap. What it is people have decided that it's never going to be the one for them. Like the Machete. Like you fill the blanks. And I'm telling you now, there are hundreds of amps like that. Hundreds of them. Some top brands, some bottom brands, some in between. But you can get yourself a really top end amp for really little money. Or relatively little money, you know, compared to some of the top end amps today. And this is not actually that old. It's even got leather ends, look, sort of DV mark leather piece attached to it. It's awesome. The Machete in its own way is the same. Anyway, from this point on, what you're going to see is some examples of Machete, and then we're going to move on to being quick conclusion. And then outside, playing. I can't play it in here, it's way too loud. So hold on a sec. Now Fender, they're not really known for being a sort of, well, they're not a rock amp, are they? Although, if you look at some of the people that have played through Fender amps, you can argue that somewhat. I mean, SRV and those sort of people have played through basically Fender amps, and Marshall, and Jim there, he took one of the designs and put a badge on it. So I thought to myself, well, I ought to really take a look at this, because this is an American made, remember that, American made, for 750 quid, give or take. Quids, pounds, not dollars, boys. So it's all good. It's all, well, it's all rock and roll. I hate to say it, but I know Rob had a plastic machete, but I don't have any machetes. Unfortunately, the wife uses them. But I have got the Psycho knife. No, let's stop a minute. Just before we hack it up, what we're going to do on this, we're going to do an inside and out review, because I think this one's had bad press. Well, sort of. What we're going to do, like all them other boys, we're going to firstly look at the build quality of this American product, because this is top of the line American product, and I think that you're going to be shocked. I haven't even opened the lid, but I'm pretty sure you're going to be shocked, especially if you touch the wrong wires. So don't go near it. Let me do that, and I'll have a shock. And by the way, when I was buying this, the head was only $50 cheaper, so I just thought I'd have the whole thing. When it arrived, I had to get 3 guys to carry it in here. It's bigger than you think. Look at me, I'm like a weed in comparison. But anyway, what I'm going to do is whip the head out of this fantastic case. It's sort of leatherette type of thing, and it looks really good. You'll see lots of reviews, but you're never going to see one quite like this one. So let me get the head out now. Let's take a closer look. Hold on a moment. Well, here we are, up close. What have you got? Well, you've got a pile of things in this, and the first thing I like, straight off, is the GT tubes. They're quite cool. What have we got? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the little things, maybe 12AX7, AT7, whatever they are, and a couple of very nice GT6L6 CHPs from GT. Very good indeed, them are. What else? Let's have a look. Let's have a look at one of them. This one says it's a ECC83 indeed. By the way, while we're on the subject of speakers, well, we're not on the subject, but we're going to be. That's a Celestion Vintage 30, one of the nice ones, so should get all that break up quite nice. And you've got some adjustments on here to play around with. It's all looking good. Great big fat transformers. That's what I like to see. So let's flip it over without any more to do and have a look inside. Okay, well, I've taken a quick look inside there, and it's one big fat board. I'm not going to say anything about it this time. But what I'm going to do is bring the camera up and we'll talk generally about it, because there's no information anywhere, not even on the internet, about what's inside this thing. And it's all quite interesting, but without any proper paperwork, you're sort of guessing a little bit. Not a problem though. It's the first time you've ever seen inside one. Hold on. Up close and personal. Whoa. Well, here we are. I bet this is the first time you've ever seen inside a Fender Machete. Probably. Some guys have seen it, but most of us haven't, have we? Well, what have we got? You've got all your controls across the front here, and all those pots around the back mount on the PCB. You can see it's one big giant PCB with 2 little boards there, one on the back. There's a little one down there for what looks like the lamp at the front, and that's all the PCBs you get. That's just life. One of the things I did like though, as well as having these this PCB here for the outputs. That's not the speaker outputs which are over here. I'm talking of the line out and the effects loop and things like that. That's nice because you get a problem there, you can fix it easy enough. I like the little board down there. I'm not so keen on them too because nobody knows what they are. We'll have a look in a minute. But I did like this here. If you go have a look down in there, you can see that the tubes, the main tubes or valves, are actually mounted straight to this metal chassis, which is always nice to see because some guys say to me, they say, "Oh Tony, when you put those tubes on the main PCB, it's going to burn." Well, it can do. I had a PV Mace 160 watt a very long time ago, and it mounted pretty much like this one really, with the tubes underneath. But what happened with the Mace is it had the tubes on a particular board like this separate, I think, if I remember, but it used to burn the board out, and that could be a problem, depending on how the thing's made. I think things have moved on a little bit since then, but in this amp you've got the real deal down there. Both 6L6s are actually mounted on the chassis, which is very, very nice to see. Makes a change actually. Now, as well as that, you've got other things floating around on this. You'll notice that the preamp tubes, they've got these no entry signs on, maybe. Or maybe that's 2 halves of the tube. Could be that. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's some more somewhere. Where are they? 5, 6. I think there's only 6. And once again, you take a quick look around the board, you'll see that the sort of quality of the board, well, it's well made, well put together. You get stupid things, and I've never done a thing to this this amp other than take it out and photograph it as now, and you can see that resistor there is all squashed around and just knocked through production, you know, without really a whim. It's the same with these things here, they just sort of knocked on there. They don't stand them up straight, they don't keep the things away a little bit. Remember the heat shields there, and they're going to hit the capacitors, which are aluminium based covers, and they're going to get hot, aren't they? So things like that, they just bug me. I don't know, maybe it doesn't bother you because you never see inside them, but I always like to have things straight. Now, as I've said, you've got a couple of regulators there. Maybe them are the main regulators for the amp, because there's no I don't see any rectifying anywhere, with a tube that is. So it's probably all rectified, maybe over here. That's the power supply area. And you've also got, just while I'm over here, there's the bias control right down there, if you can see. Fortunately, or unfortunately, I haven't found any test points yet, but no doubt we will. Another thing which I often look at with most of these inside and outs is take a look at the power supply area, not the output transformer, the input transformer here, all this stuff over here, and just have a look what voltages are going where, and have a look if there's any wires that have been wrapped up like this that don't actually connect to anything, and then you've got a pretty good bet that really the amp could be switched over to other voltages. Or maybe this one can, maybe it can't. There's nothing too obvious here, because every wire that I can see that comes out of there is connected to the main board or the fuse. So I would say on a sort of average balance that I reckon this is stuck in the voltage for the country. So if you get a 110 volt one, well, the only way you're going to convert it, probably, I could be wrong, like I said, there's no info, probably is to get another power transformer or run it off a step up or a step down. In our case, we're 240 volts. I'm around this side now. You can tell from the voice. There is a fuse just down in there on the main board, so should you ever get a dead amp, that's one of the places to look. There's one on the back here, but there's also one down on the main PCB. It looks like one of them slow blow things. I'm not even going to comment about slow blows. I have a sneaky feeling that this board here, this one down here, is the digital reverb which this amp has, and maybe that one could even be part of it too. I don't know, because there's no information, very little around on the boards. There's no real markings or anything really, except a couple of part numbers, and I couldn't be bothered to look. I'm just going to show you a few things that I didn't like so much. Now I'm back around this side. You can see very clearly down on this tube socket that there's a lot of gunge around it. You see that? It's not always a good sign. It might be okay on this one. Soldering looks fine, but it's this gunge that sits around it. And a lot of the other preamp tubes are like that too. And I also think, well, these things down here might look reasonably okay. That's a quick shot of the bias. I'm not complaining about that. I think that's a great thing. But the thing that's less great about it is most of the amps that you see around today are auto biasing. This one isn't, and it's this one was made in 0312, it says here. So it's probably one of the first batch. Who knows? Again, not easy to check. Take a quick look at that resistor over there. Just thrown on the board any old way. It's okay, I guess. It's electrically okay, that is, but it's not cosmetically okay. And I do like things to look right, don't you? You do want to have a decent amp, don't you? You know, it's good. Yeah, nice, neat amp. Looks, always makes me feel better, doesn't it? So there's a quick shot of the chassis. Like I said, metal through and through. Very nice. I don't know why that one hasn't actually got a cover on it. Maybe it's just missing. Maybe I'll just put one on. Actually, I will be putting one on. Mine will be a gold one. I like gold, don't you? Especially in my teeth. Oh, look, we got a choke. I like chokes. Well, here we are around the back. Well, I'm at the side actually, but there you go. What always amazes me about amplifier manufacturers, how you get these variances of sort of untruths. They're everywhere. This is quite an interesting point. This one's a European amp, sold in the UK through an authorised Fender dealer, and you notice it's 230 volts. Well, there's nothing special about that, except the UK happens to be 240 volts. Now, if this was a Hughes and Kettner amplifier, you would find that the official line on 230 volt Hughes and Kettners from Europe that you can fetch into the UK. Oh, don't do that. Yeah, you're stressing the amp, you'll blow it up, because it's 240 volts going into a 230 volt socket. Yet here is a premier amplifier manufacturer, and bear in mind how much this amp should have really been, supplying an amplifier at 230 volts for the UK and saying everything's absolutely great. It makes you wonder a bit about those Hughes and Kettner boys and some of that excuse. Personally, I just think it's a way of protecting UK dealers. There's nothing wrong in that, but why don't they just say that? It'd be much nicer, wouldn't it? Always like to see the CE approvals and things like that as well. Ticked, thanks very much. All very good. External fuse, power off, power standby, they're both on. Don't know why. That's the way it comes. We've got an effects loop, send and return. We've got a send level and a return level, which is very nice. You can set a lot of stuff up that way then. A lot of amps don't have that. They have one little knob and that's it. Moving now to the other end of the amp, the back of it that is. Here we've got is a line out. Tells you what they are. Very nice. Cab emulation. PA mute. So you can bang it through the PA and mute. Nice. No noise coming from this. You've got MIDI as well, MIDI in. No MIDI out or MIDI through, by the way, but you've got a MIDI in and that's good. So you can connect up a MIDI setup to this and control it. Maybe that's one of those boards that we saw. Maybe that goes and is controlled by one of them boards. Yeah, probably. There's my serial number if you really want to take the mickey. I don't really care. Tells you about Fender. Fender Musical Instruments, a product of Fender, Corona, California. It's made in the USA. Nice. You got some more little warnings and things going on here. Not worried about that. And then you've got this speaker outs. There's two of them. Then you can have 4, 8 or 16 ohms. And down in the corner, right out to the side. Let me just move that. Oh, you can just see it right down there. Is a Rush Compliance little logo. I think I've seen some kit without all this stuff on. Fancy that. Well, here we are around the front. It's all boring at the front. It's the thing you look at all day and all night. Yeah. Obvious really, it says channel 1. How boring's that? That says channel 2 over there. We'll come to that. We've got a plus and a minus. It's a bit like a bit of a limiter on the input. So if you're using something like very active pickups or something like that, you can tone them down a bit. Well, of course there's then no point in having active pickups, is there? We've got a pull for bright on the gain. We've got a pull gain on the volume. We've got a low, mid and high, and a notch filter. And that really looks after the mid. That's the end of that channel. How boring was that? Some people spend all day showing you these knobs. Yeah, let's face it, it's not really a Mark V, is it? Let's have a look. Channel 2, gain, volume, low, mid, high, notch filter again, little switch there, probably for the reverb. And then you've got this little section here that looks after the damping of the speaker itself, which is down here, down there. Yeah, and that's about how boring it gets. What you do, what's great about this amp, unlike any simulator that you pay an awful lot more than 750 quid for, is you can turn this on. You can sort of do that, plug in and go. How good's that? That's awesome, isn't it? And that's one of the things about getting real tube amps. You can actually plug them in straight away and off you go. How good's that? All nice. I like the grill too, all 60s Fendery type, and a bit like this this little grey add-on here, which makes it more like a sort of, they say, a 1950s car. Well, don't make it look like a 1950s car to me. It reminds me of a Spawn amp I had made with a similar but purple design. And that, my friends, is the back, the front, the insides, the whole damn thing to do with a Fender Machete. Let's go on a little chat about where we go from here. I'm back. Now that's one heavy amp. Now let me tell you why that's a problem. Because it's heavy. It's 76 pounds. I think it's 35 kilos or 30 kilos or something ridiculous. Now that could be a bit of a problem. You've only got one handle on the top in the middle here. It's a good handle, it ain't going to come off anytime soon, because I've done double checking on that, because being where I am and how I am, I'm miserable that way. But Fender in their wisdom know that it's a heavy amp, like you do now. So they give you a few bits of goodies, and they ought to do at the price what this was. Remember, it was. It's the price that's now that matters on this amp and you. You get 4 of them, which is good because you can put them under there and you can wheel it around easier than a 4x12. Nice, I like that. Let's put that out of the way. Get down there. And also, you get the big fat Machete. Look, it's brand new, it's never been out of the packet. Yeah, Machete foot pedal. And if you don't like that, you can just throw it away over there and use that MIDI that we found, which is all very nice. Exceptionally nice indeed. Oh, there's another thing too. You know where I was saying, oh, that hole's for the bias? It isn't. You knew that. Anyway, what it's for is for hum cancellation. Now, a few years ago I built an amp, a JTM 45 indeed, and I had a board from a company in America. If you go on my website you'll see it all there. And when I built the board and I put it in a real JTM 45 chassis, I had this incredible hum coming out of the thing. And you know, I thought to myself, well, why does the Marshall JTM 45, the current one, not hum? And why does mine hum? And then I went down all that stuff with forum guys, you know the thing. Now, the guys that actually helped me a little bit when I was building the amp were great, really good guys. You know, getting the voltages right and that sort of thing. But I'm not really a forum fanatic, so, well, as you've guessed. So I thought to myself, what do we do next? Well, what we did next was you took the Marshall JTM 45 circuit diagram off the new one, and I looked at the circuit diagram and the board of the old one, and I checked all the wires to make sure they were all wound round the chassis right and all that sort of rubbish that you have to do, what you're supposed to do, and it's supposed to make it better. It didn't make a bean of difference, but I suppose some people say it does. But what actually I did is I made up a little PCB. I'm not going to tell you where to put it or anything like that. The boys that know, and the boys that don't know, won't know. Don't know. Yeah, that was very good how I did that, wasn't it? Yeah. Anyway, you put this PCB in, and I had a little adjuster on there, so I could balance between two halves, actually, of one of the tubes. And by twisting this little adjuster, what you really do is balancing up the two halves to minimise the hum. And you know what? It took the hum completely away. Well, it did after I threw their board out and put another one in that I got from somebody else. Let's put it up. Anyway, enough of that for now. Let's get back to this one. Now listen up. I've already heard one of these in action. Not on some video somewhere, but in real life. Because that's how I am. I go and have a look at things. You know, when Rob and his mates, they were saying, oh yeah, we've never had anybody in the shop, I think in 3 months, that's a rock guitarist that's even looked at that Fender amp. They're probably right. Yeah. So I went in somewhere else and said, hey, I want to look at that, I'm a rock guitarist. I just thought that was funny. Good entry into their video. Anyway, the point is, when you actually plug this in, which you're going to hear later, somewhere on this video, or maybe another video, no, I'll be on this one, you're going to say, why the hell didn't I buy one of them? Then you're going to say to yourself, you're going to say, oh, I know why I didn't buy it. It was 2,000 quid, or $3,000 to you Americans. Well, it's not that much in America, I know, but it's still expensive. I think it was $1,800. That's still a lot of money. That's about $1,300 in England money. You gain, we lose. That's how it goes. So, I guess, associating Fender with Fender amps, which you would, because that's what they are, and Fender never making a real heavy amp. I don't mean the 76 pounds, I mean a real rock amp. Nobody bothered with it and it faded away. This is from the first batch by the look of it. Well, no, actually it's probably the second batch, 0312. Yeah, well, it probably isn't the second batch. Give or take anyway. I think it's pretty early on. Never been sold for all that time. I bought it brand new today. So, there you have it. Well, this is an amp at this price, 750 quid, give or take, depends how much you haggle. And frankly, you should wish you'd owned. Because when you hear it, when you look inside at the quality, because there is still quality, I mean, there's a lot of quality in there. I tried to buy one from Toman. Local dealer doesn't have it in there anyway, and you probably can't get them now. I tried to buy one from Toman, I left it in the inbox. I'll come back tomorrow night and buy it. That was 2 nights ago, or 3 nights ago. And I came back the next night, and you can believe this or not, every single one of the combo and the head had sold out that night when they dropped the price. Amazing. For the price, it is awesome. Trust me on this. Some of you might not like to say I play a Fender. Lastly, I'm going to go and play it now. Well, it won't be tonight, because it's tonight now. I'm going to go and play it, it's going to be after this point now. But don't forget, go over to my site. So that's it, guys. Don't forget, www.TonyMckenzie.com if you want to see the written review, or any of the other reviews that I've written, which is loads and loads of reviews, Hughes and Kettner and all sorts of things. Joe Satriani, they're all on there. But here's the music. I'll do a bit of quiet stuff and a bit of louder stuff. Rock and roll, and thanks for watching. See you again. Oops, I always do that, don't I? There's an owner's manual and it's really thin. Now get out of here and go watch it. See ya. That's just on the clean channel with a bit of boost. It does have quite a nice, I'm on about number 7 on the guitar.